Good. People, welcome everybody. I really appreciate that we have got so many young students, a few elderly gentlemen as well, some lecturers. No, not you. I mean the people in front of me. Welcome. And here is Dr. Emmanuel Taban. And that is the boy who never gave up. I hope you have brought your books. No, I invited him to bring a box of books because he wrote a book about his journey. Now, his journey is very nice. I'm not going to tell you details, of course. I'm just telling you he is a pulmonologist. And I'm sure you know what is a pulmonologist. He's not a pathologist. He's a pulmonologist. He studied here at UP, like you. What was not that easy. He did his undergraduate at Medunza, and before he did it, he did schooling a little bit here and a little bit there, and he's going to tell you about it. But he's going to tell you about his journey, literally, and his life journey, I suppose, as well. And I've asked him to talk about a variety of topics, including resilience, coping with obstacles, how to cope with stress, how to trust people. What is the role of prayer? Does it help to pray? Or do you have to use your brain and your hands? He's going to talk about all that. And I said he shouldn't be afraid to talk about racism as well, because I think he has been on the receiving end of that as well, even in this country. And I'm sure you will enjoy his talk. Emmanuel, over to you. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Give him a round of applause. All right, good.
Good afternoon. My apology, I'm a bit taller for whatever reason.
Better.
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Taban. I'm a pulmonologist by training. I was once a student in this university from 2007 to 2011. And I probably sat in one of these lecture halls, either lecturing students or being a student myself. I would like to really give thanks to my colleagues for inviting me to speak to the Department of Family Medicine regarding my journey, and I feel very honored. And actually, last time that I was here was around 15 October 2011, when I came for Prof. Kerr to sign my SPCA documents before I left the university. And I thought I would come back soon. Unfortunately, that's been 11 years now down the line. And obviously, one thing very important that the university have changed. I think I used to spend most of my time in library, and I actually met my wife in the library, but I saw that the building, everything have changed. So I think maybe one day we'll come here for a date. Yeah, but I really appreciate it. So I really want to tell you a bit about my journey. Unfortunately, that my journey has been documented in the book called The Boy Who Never Gave Up, and it's about 245 pages. So there's no way that I'll be able to tell you about the book today. But I just want to tell you 3 stories about my life that probably have impact in my life, and probably that made me who I am today. And those 3, we shall put them in the context. One is about learned helplessness. How did I manage to overcome learned helplessness? And the second thing is to look at the life as paramid. And thirdly, is also perhaps to say life is a journey. And that's all. Nothing more to it. Helplessness. Most of you who have done psychology in your life or during just your journey in life, you have learned, probably you have faced situations where you become a victim and you learn helplessness. You feel like there's nothing I could do and nobody can help me, and you end accepting the situation the way it is. And that used to be my life, and I needed to change it. And one of the stories that I'll tell you, I want to tell you my recent, what had happened to me about a few weeks ago. I have a practice in midstream Mediclinic, but I also, before, when I left University of Pretoria, I went to Highfield Mediclinic in Secunda, where I spend my time as a physician. So I always have a strong attachment to people in Secunda, in respect of their race. And I always feel guilty that they have to come from Secunda to see me in Pretoria because I've grown. So I have to go there once, almost twice a month. So I travel always there more frequent through the R50 Delmas. And I've traveled there a couple of times. So one of the weekend when I was going there, I was driving and I had a minor accident. Because a gentleman who was, I think, I presume to be a farmer, drove with a bakkie and he was trying to avoid pothole. And the process of avoiding the pothole, he happened to ram into my car. And of course, when we stopped and I have my PA with me, and I won't mention her name, and she just stopped out the car and spoke to the gentleman saying, but it's your fault. You almost killed us. We almost have an accident. And of course, I was really trying to get my head around. When I come out, I saw this man sitting, quite a big guy, 3 times my size, taller, like a really farmer. And I thought I should apologize for him for the accident. And of course, he extended his hand, I greeted him, we exchanged insurance number, and I left. And my PA asked me, why do you have to apologize to him? Because it's clearly his fault. He left his lane to come our lane, and that's why the accident happened. And I asked her, how sure are you that it's actually his fault? Was it really his fault? I wanted you guys to digest it. Actually, whose fault is it? But I was born in South Sudan in 1977, to my mother and father. 6 months before I was born, my mom thought he had enough on my dad, and she filed for divorce. And then the divorce, and of course the chief in the village decided that I now belong to my mother. So I became a fatherless child before I was born. And I grew up with my mom, and we grew up in the village. We didn't have any water, no sanitation, no toilets. Never seen a toilet paper, let alone have a flush toilet, until I left South Sudan. We always went to the bush to relieve ourselves. We eat wild fruits. It's from the birds and others. And that was my life. But believe me, I was a very happy child. The reason is that because everybody in the village were living exactly the same way. The rich have a bicycle. Car is something that belonged to government official. So we always went to river to bathe ourselves. Sometimes you get worms, you get diarrhea and all those things, hepatitis and everything, but that was normal. So it wasn't seen as peculiar. And of course, if unluckily you died, you always see a priest coming to the funeral, and the priest will say something lovely. This person has gone to a better place. God has just called him. And I thought, like, God was always kind, but why do you have to call someone who is sick, dying? Someone who just drink dirty water. How can he go to heaven if really the heaven is a nice place? When will this person take responsibility? And that's always what has eaten me for a number of years in my life. And that's, for me, that's what I call learned helplessness. We know that in South Africa, about a few months ago, I remember the Minister of Electricity say, we're going to have 2 weeks without load shedding, and everybody was very happy. Why are you happy? Are we supposed to really to have load shedding? No, we shouldn't be having it. But the fact that you're free to leave, that 7 days we won't have load shedding, means you're learning helplessness. You're accepting that the situation is beyond your hand. And hence your brain is not going to think differently to try to overcome the problems. Your brain somehow telling you that you can't do anything. It's dark, it's okay. Your brain actually would go further and plan for you to buy your Uber Eats earlier, to make sure that you buy earlier. Everything starts like to condition yourself so that the condition become normal to you. And that's where our problem here is. We're learning helplessness. Means you accept situation that is abnormal to become normal. And I think for me, perhaps that's what always entrenched me, that I wanted to make sure that I don't accept those conditions as normal. And of course, South Sudan as a country, for a number of generations, always been engulfed in senseless war. People fighting each other, the same people. Not different from South Africa, where Zulu were killing each other because of political differences, which is very stupid though, because what are you fighting for? It's another fellow human being. And that's what was my story in South Sudan. And of course, I got arrested by age of 15, put in prisons. I was tortured. And again, I remember very well, the first day that I was tortured, my captors were asking me, where was my father? Were there no any rebels? Because South Sudan was in state of war. And I remember the first day, I screamed heartlessly I screamed until the following morning. The next day he came, he did exactly the same. After 1 week, I can hardly feel the pain, except the scar in my hands that would bleed. That's all I could feel. But everything became normal. I was no longer scared, perhaps because I also accepted my destiny, that there's nothing I can do for myself, that the world will turn against me. And even the God that I always pray for was not there for me. So life became normal. And of course, I had a spirit within me, and I managed to trick him that I was a Muslim. And that perhaps changed his attitude toward me, because South Sudan was divided because of religion. So I thought maybe if I exploit that part, I will escape my predicament. And yes, that actually did help. I did manage to escape my predicament, and I was taken into Kalwa, taught Islamic religion, and I learned it hard and hard. I became the best in reading Quran. I could lead a prayer, and they offered me an escape route. I went to Eritrea. In Eritrea, of course, to Sudan, and when I was trying really to escape, after 2 weeks, I get bored. I thought after praying to God, nothing changed, your life remained the same, and I didn't think that was my life. And I tried to escape, and then I took a wrong turn, found myself in Eritrea. In Eritrea, I didn't have passport. I was 16, never heard of passport before. And I was put in prison again. I spent 3 months in prison. It was hard. And after that, because I was a juvenile, I was handed over to UN. And UN initially put me in the hotel, spent a few days, and then I was told, you need to go to refugee camp. And there's only one refugee camp next to the border of Djibouti, those who know geography. And I thought, okay, great, that's not a bad idea. How many South Sudanese there? Then they said, there's none, you're going to be the first. And that actually probably perhaps I should have been happy, because I'll be the first I could have made history. As most of people here would like to make history, to be the first in doing everything in their lives. But I asked him, will I go to school? Then they said, no. But in 5 years, you can be resettled to America. But I said, but I'm 16, turning 17. That means when will I go to school at age 22? Means I'm going to probably become a laborer forever. Then I told him, no, I don't want to go to refugee camp. I want to find school. Then they told me, you're on your own if you decide to leave the UN. Then I said, okay, that's fine. And that marked the beginning of my life as a street child. And trust me, being a street child is not easy. The worst I ever experienced was in Ethiopia. I got stranded. I have absolutely nothing. And I remember that we have to sleep outside the doorway. It was cold. In the night, when it's very cold, you can only hug yourself to get warm. The cotton that you sleep on does not even offer you anything. Strangers come and pass by. Others will give you something, others might not. But there are a lot of, I wasn't unique because I was not the only one. There are a lot of street children around the street either. And, you know, when you find yourself in difficult moments, most of us don't understand. People only cares when it impacts them. When your life has something to do with them, then they care. But if they have nothing to do with you, then nobody cares. And that's probably what had happened with the COVID vaccine. COVID was, for me, was a perfect story. It tells you everybody was dying. Nobody was spared. Nobody was safe. And then we could able to get the vaccine just like that. Just imagine if we could get vaccine for hunger, for poverty. If you imagine if all Europe, America, everywhere else are in hunger, don't you think we'll get solved the problem just like that? Because everybody will become, because it will affect them. But because it doesn't affect most of these people, then nobody cares. That's the reality. And that's for me. I remember going for 6 weeks, no shower, no bath. Look, I could have been smelling, but the dignity was luxury for me that I cannot afford. And that was the reality. And I could pray, do so many things, but nobody can save you. And from there, of course, I found a bit of support. And only my life actually started changing when I started moving. I remember I would sleep all the night in the doorway because it was safe. But in the morning, when the owner of the shop come to open his shop, then he kick us out of his front shop so that we don't scare his customers off. And then from there, we'll go and ask for help. And one day I got help. And someone helped me with 100 birr, which is about maybe 50 rand. And I decide I need to move out of that place and at least be in the new different place. Though I don't know what is going to be there, but at least it's better for me. Because sometimes standing in the same place does not solve your problems. That's why sometimes you must take a step. Move out. Take a move. See different perspective. Breathe different air. That will probably give you a lot of possibilities in life. And that's the only way that I was able to escape being a street child in Ethiopia. And from there, I found myself in Kenya, in my uncle's house. And again, my uncle wanted me to go to refugee house, to refugee camp. And I said, no, I want to go to school because his children were going to school and he couldn't afford for me. Again, I decided, no, I'm going to South Africa after drinking Coca-Cola can. And that's what actually took me until I came to South Africa. And going back to my ordeal with the accident, what do you think is whose fault is there? Was it really my fault that the accident happened? Whose fault is it? I agree. That's what every normal person will think. But assume that I accept that it's his fault. What are the chances that the same accident will happen again? When will I ever learn? Let me be honest with you. I've dropped that road a couple of times. That pothole was there. But because that pothole I could see, I could avoid, it didn't affect my life. So I just leave it the way it is. Little did I know that somebody would not see it and going to ram into my vehicle. And so perhaps if we could have stopped that day and put a maram onto it and closed that pothole, the accident could not have happened. So in either way, I have contributed and become my fault by default. So I take responsibility for that I have not done something on it, or at least put a sign to say that there's a pothole here. And second thing, why didn't I use a different road since I know the road was full of pothole? I could have avoided the situation if I used different road. I didn't, because I want a shortcut. And that's why almost I could have died there. Because people only do things when it's affect them. And thirdly, I could have saw this guy coming. I could have stopped. Because if I could have stopped, then it will not have run into me. So I needed to teach my brain hard lessons that if I take responsibility, next time when I drop the same road, my brain automatically will remind me that it last time you have accident because you did 1, 2, 3. And my brain will make sure that it's vigilant to avoid the same accident from happening. So I needed to take responsibility because I cannot change that guy. Yes, he was opening potholes. What if he got epileptic fit? What if his cars have no brakes? I can't change him, but I can only change me. So my change in life only started when I started taking responsibility for my own fault and my own weaknesses. Because for every situation that happens, you always play a part in it. And it's our duty to make sure that you look at the part you play in it, not the others that have played in your part. It's you. Because nothing will happen. I assume this lecture will not happen if I'm standing here and you're not there. For this lecture to happen, we have to be in the same place. So it means you take responsibility of coming to this lecture room, and that affects about life. But it's something that is painful for us to accept. So my lesson to you, take responsibility. If you fail a test, find the reason why you failed the test. Stop asking for remarks, stop blaming your lecturer, or stop looking for other reasons, because either you have not studied enough, or you're too short, or you don't understand yourself that you have not taken enough time to study or prepare for your exams. So you take responsibility for it, and in that case, you will never have to fail or repeat your exams again. My second lesson in life was a paramid. When I arrived in South Africa, 18 months down the line, I spent 3 days or 4 days next to the flyover bridge, next to Els Park, as a street child. I have no home, nowhere. Life was difficult. Until I picked up by missionaries who were from Germany and Italy. And I remember very well, because it's a missionaries, there was a white gentleman who came and asked for the bread. And my guardian, Bishop Sandri, asked me to make a bread to this man. And I turned to him and say, Bishop, no, these are the apartheid guys. Why do you feed them? Then he looked at me and said, I will explain to you later, please make him the bread. And I went and I made him a bread. Then I was puzzled, because in South Africa, wherever you drive, in every township, is a black person township. If you go to the suburb, best suburbs are all whites, and then are Indians. Then I was a good Catholic. I prayed all the time. And I started questioning. The problem with me, I always have curiosity. And I always want to know, what color is God? Was he white, black, or Indian? And it's clearly that if he was black, then he had serious problems. So it means most likely it's unlikely to be black. It's more likely to be white. So I asked my guardian, who happened to be a bishop, and asked him why God has been unfair. Because black people are suffering and white people are thriving wherever you go in the world. Why? And I remember he sat down with me. He said, it's never about God. God gives us free will to make decisions. So if you decide not to study, you are right. But don't be surprised if you never make it in life. So he taught me that lessons. And as I progress, I get to understand that actually life is a pyramid. You know, it's very scary. So when I graduated in 2004 in Medunsa, I went to Medunsa University. When I graduated, we were about 300. And of course, UP, there were about 200 students, Stellenbosch. So you find that when you graduated, there were about 1,200 to 2,000 doctors. And I asked myself, out of 2,000 doctors, I'm black, I'm DACA. Where will I fit in that pyramid, actually? Means I'm from Medunsa, I'll be on the bottom. Because if I take all these people, students together, the top one would sit, the rest would filter down. irrespective of your color, based on your passion, how good you are. And that's the first lesson that I learned when I finished medicine. And then I focused to improve myself and trying to be the best that I could do. When I say the best that I could do, it's not about getting 90%. It's not about telling people that I'm the best, but do my work to my best of my ability and be passionate about anything I do. Whether I do gardening, whether I wash car, or whatever I do, I need to try to be the good in it. And if I'm not good enough, that's my problems. It's never someone else. But I need to make sure that I'll spend a lot of time. And of course, as time goes, I always very self-critical myself as my first lesson. I refuse to learn helplessness, and I refuse to blame someone for having an argument with. And I always take responsibility for that. And out of that, of course, that's when I finished the comm service, I feel like I didn't know enough. That's when I came to UP. And UP was a different type of fish. Not easy. It wasn't diverse in 2007. I remember that we were about two black registrars. And I remember an incident that happened very, very clear when I was in UP with one of my senior consultants. He was in California. And I was in cardiologist department. And he phoned, and we have a policy in the department that if you ever ask for Holter ECG as a consultant, the registrar hook up the Holter, print the results, and we forward it to you, then you do your own interpretations. But if you wanted us to get a report, then you must send the patient to us, then we investigate the patient, then you get a cardiologist report. So one of the consultants phoned me and asked me exactly for that. So I said, but this is where the police, then he said, no, I need the damn Holter. So of course I did it, and then pack it nice, send it to him. And he called, and he was very angry with me. And that was the first time that I lost it, and I made the biggest mistake of my life. I dropped the phone on his ear. The next, I was in the head of department office, Dr. Prof. Calder, the late Prof. Calder. And then, to make matter worse, I have one of the patients also. That was just a bad week for me. One of the patients also come in, and for whatever reason, he just feel like he doesn't want to see a black registrar. Then I say, no, you're going to sign RST because I won't allow you to spoil my day. Then he signed RST, then they also went to him. And I remember first he asked me, why did you disrespect your elderly? I said, no, my elderly was disrespectful toward me. And he said, I must apologize, and I refused point blank. Then he told me again, the guy who died in RST, it was my fault. And I said, no, it wasn't my fault. I was just red-headed. And by looking at the hindsight, yes, it was my fault. I should not have stood at this level. And then from there, I was sent to psychiatric assessment because I thought mentally I was not okay, which I went. And after I remember was Dr. Van der Balt. And he issued me, said, no, you have no problem. The issue that you just don't like. And then I tell him I don't like bullies. But either way, for all the incident too that happens, yes, I took responsibility. It was my fault. I could have reacted differently. I could have focused differently. I could have looked at the situation differently. But I think the environment normally affects you. But with that, and I remember that day, I went and I resigned. I said, no, I'm quitting. And thanks God, I met Prof. Matiba, the late Prof. Matiba, and say, what did you do? I said, I just resigned, Prof. Then he said, go and get that letter back. So I said, why, Prof? He said, no. You are always emotional. Stop being emotional. We're all going to have problems in life. Go and finish your career. So I went to Prof. I said, Prof, I'm no longer resigning. Then he said, why? I said, Prof, I'm only going to resign if you give me my degree. Then he said, but you haven't finished. I said, exactly, so I'm going to finish first. And that was when my resignation was resetted. I finished internal medicine, of course, in 2011, went to Secunda, and finished. And then, of course, I didn't think that I was still on the top of the pyramid. I went and studied, at Vets, did pulmonology, spent time in University of Florida, come back and went to University of Amsterdam, come back and went to Heidelberg, Germany before COVID. So I needed to educate myself more because I don't want to be on the bottom of pyramid. And of course, the answer was my success have anything to do with God? The answer is no. It's more to do with my ability not to give up. Because God is never racist. God will give us equal opportunities. But you yourself must work hard and develop that gift that is given to you. And all of us have gift. So you have to develop it, you have to perfect it, you have to make it worth it. Because if you don't, nobody will respect you. Today, I'm sitting as pulmonologist midstream with diversity of patients. I don't need to worry about workload because people know. And once, 2 years ago, I was in an interview in one of the Crude FM, and they asked me about that, Dr. Taban, you are black. Why do you think white patients want to see you? And I remember telling that, you know what? Go to Woolworth. If you want to buy orange, let me know whether you're going to ask around whether the orange will pick up by black or white or by Indian. If the answer is no, you're going to go and pick up the best box of orange. And that's what you want. So I'm going to be that box of the orange. If you want the best, you pick me. If you don't want the best, that's your own problem. So it means you have to position yourself in society and to be on the top of that pyramid. And when you're top there, nobody will question your integrity. But it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of determinations, a lot of consistency. So it means you have to believe it, you have to live it, and sometimes it consumes all your time. And that, for me, is life as a pyramid. My last is about purpose. In my book, I did this and that, you know, in South Sudan, all our houses were made round with a mat, and all 6 children stay in the same mat house. But if you go to the same neighbor, it's the same. And recently, I actually got interest in township. If you go to township, you find the houses all look the same, square, also the same. So people do, and actually, if you also look at the shacks, it's more or less the same. People all look they do the same thing for a number of years. So we have lived in mud house in South Sudan for thousands of years. And of course, then after 2-3 years, the house get washed out by rain, then you redo it again over and over and over. And none of us think that actually you need to burn bricks or build something. It's just because the society just affects you. You just become what the society made out of you. That's all. You live on. Life is perfect. But then something crossed my mind for a long time. Then I thought, you know what? All babies, when they're born, they're 0. Their brain is just like clean slate, irrespective, because they learn absolutely 0 from their mother womb. But then the question is, whether they're born, let's assume those kids were born in Japan, others in America, US, and others are even born in Soweto. Which one turn better? Because when they're 0, they're all the same. Then how come the others are left behind and others are ahead of others as when they become adults? And that puzzles me. And sooner or later, I found out that the society you find yourself in impact how you develop in life, who you surround yourself with, what you do with your time, because all of us will have 24 hours, affects your ability as a human being in development. And that's, for me, it took me by surprise. And I remember that also, when we are born, we all will be wearing nappies. But I was unlucky not to wear nappies because we didn't have nappies in South Sudan. So it means I get covered by whatever clothes was there. But either way, somebody had to clean your bum. Somebody had to wash you. But the same thing would happen. One day, when you die, a stranger have to wash you. If you end up in hospital with dementia, somebody had to put catheter to you. Somebody had to clean your bum. So, in other way, the way you are born with no dignity, you die with neither of that too. So what's the meaning of life? If life is like that, then what makes us different? Why others think that they're better than the others? And that brings me today that it's all about your purpose on earth. Because some of us, we want to live life like the rest of the animals around. We don't know what happened tomorrow. But the truth is that human beings are very unique. We're special. We have capability to see beyond and also do amazing stuff. But those things, they don't happen by luck. They don't. They happen by passion, by a lot of determination, a lot of consistency, a lot of hard work. And in my book, I wrote about life as being the first half and second half of soccer. Because I've looked at my life that from the day that I was born up to age of 18, at least in South Africa at 16, you don't give any consent. Your parents give consent on your behalf. And that means you have no right. You're just like any other animals on the street, or dog or cat, or whatever it is. Your parents make decisions on your behalf. And then after age of 18, somehow, someone in society believed that you must be given some kind of freedom. And that's where most of us actually fall. Because that freedom you get from age of 18, for me, 18 to 25, I always say that is warm up. Like any other soccer or rugby player, before they go and play the game, they exercise. And that warm up for your life is about enrolling to university, getting your skills, studying, making friends, creating some kind of skill to make you thrive. Then from age of 25, at least to me, that's where your first half begins, from 25 to 45. And I always say the first half is like when you watch any game, the players are full of energy. They just want to go all out, they want to win. But then, it depends on your competitors. Depends on your pyramids, where you find yourself. Now, if you're on the pyramid that is weak, you'll be on top actually while you're going nowhere. But if you're in pyramid with people that are strong, you get to know that I didn't know enough. There's somebody who's better than out there for me. And that's become the time, actually, where most of you want to get married, want to work hard, start dreaming. And first half for me is a year that you work tirelessly. And in most of your careers, you need to spend at least 10,000 hours for you to become good in your work. You need 10,000 hours. I achieved mine within 3 years and a half because I've worked at least minimum of 14 to 15 hours every day. That's been my life from 2012 after now. I still do the same. So I do 14, I wake up at 4:30, I leave work around 8:30 or 9:30 every day. I stay 42 kilometers from hospital for a good reason. Because in the past, I stay about 50 meters from hospital. I spend all the time in the hospital. So I need to switch off. But then, that's me. But some people, if you go to work for 2-3 hours, your 10,000 hours will be like 20, 30 years. By that time, you could retire. And you think that, and you actually will not have done any impact. And you're always going to be miserable in life. And for me, I was able to achieve that in 3 hours. And that helped me to stand out. So, and of course, most people who have done so much hours, because life is all about how much you see, how much you do. It's not how much you talk. The more you do, you tend to learn from your mistakes and get better and better. Because in my life, I never learned from my failure. If you fail, finish. You have learned nothing. But if you make mistake and correct the mistake, it becomes a success. So mistakes can go into failure or to success. Failure means you don't learn. When you correct it, you become success out of it. And always means you have to be in another level. And that's always what helped me to learn on my first hub. Now I turned 46. I was 45 last year. And I figure out, wow, now I'm 45. You know, when you're 45, you look back, and when you look at the people, they're very young. They look younger than you. They speak different kind of dialect. They look very strange. But then when you look at the people that are above age of 40, 50, 60, you think like, no, they're too old. So you're in the state of confusion, and you sometimes don't know what is what. Because you think you're old now, you're soon gonna retire. But you're no longer young either. But then the problem that if you have not done enough, life becomes extremely difficult. And I'm at that point that I've done my first hub successfully. My first hub has ended with great achievement. I published a book. I achieved as one of the 100 most influential people in Africa and African Person of the Year. So I've done not bad enough. I still can do more. But my point is that, will I ever be remembered? Would I want to die as an anonymous person? Yes, I know. I'll be wearing nappy one day when I'm 85 or so. But people will not remember that. People will remember what I've done between the age of 25 and the age of 65. And that, for me, is life with purpose. And I always say there's different. If you go to Nelson Mandela graveyard, you see big tombstones. You go to the roads, that's all Nelson Mandela. And you go to my house in my village, my mom's house, my mom I only know my mom, nobody knows my mom. All those who knew my mom are people that they have forgotten about that she actually exists. The question is that, do you want to be anonymous? What impact do you want to create in the world? And if you're going to create an impact in the world, then you need to do it between the age of 25 to age of 45. The problem that when you're between 25 and 45, you can work 24/7. You will never get sick. You will always do great. You will always be fine. But from age of 45, you have to do calculated risk because you might not be able to put the hours that you do when you're young. So my advice for the young people here, there's no reason why you should get 45. If it means that you have to study for tests for 24 hours, you have to go for it because that's what, at the end of the day, counts for your life. So for me, life with purpose means that your first half of your life, you spend it well. And make sure that your second half of life, you can give away what you have achieved, touch a lot of lives, and perhaps leave South Africa a better place. Don't leave it with potholes, with electrical problems. Leave it as smooth as you can, the way you have found it. If you find it potholes, make sure that you close those potholes. Take the responsibility as individuals and try to make sure that the society one day will be a better society. Thank you.
Can you take some questions?
Yes.
Good. Thank you very much. Dr. Taban said he can take some questions because maybe you sit there and you wonder, what about this and that? So questions are welcome.
Just while you think about your question,
There's a roaming mic.
by the way, one thing that I don't believe in racism. I don't think it exists. That's my philosophy. So don't judge me because I don't believe in it. Okay?
Maybe you can say something about what happened to you when you were on call and you rushed to Mediclinic. What did the Metro Police do to you? Just to make people feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, look, I was pulled over by police. I was driving a nice fancy car, and it was during COVID time. And obviously, the police officer wasn't very happy that I was foreigner, married to South African lady, driving a nice car, and it offend a lot of people. The questions is that is him. Does that mean that my parents all South African with the same flag? No. He had problems. I didn't have problems. Yes, it was humiliations. It was difficult. But the truth is that, yes, it hurts. You'll find yourself in a situation that hurts. You cry. But most important thing, step aside. Think. And never give people satisfaction. And that's why I don't believe in racism. People who are racist, I always say that I call them high energy victims. Okay? Because I'll give you a perfect example. Imagine you're an Afrikaner farmer farming chickens. Out of blue, someone, black, come and stole the poi station. And your chicken all die in incubator. You go to the bank and the bank say you don't meet the BE code. And your business died. Now you go to town. You see a black person who happened maybe bump to you by mistake because he's blind. He's going to take it out on this black person. Am I wrong? He will do it. And all society will say, yes, he's racist. No, he's not. He have not taken responsibility for his failure for not having a generator to back up his power. He have not taught his business principle very well. It's just because a black person stole his cables, that does not mean all black people are painted the same thing. So that person got problems. It's not that guy. So that's why I would never entertain anybody who is racist. You understand? Because they have problems. So the same thing. We have politicians who say so many things. Like, you're a white person, you come here and say, you apply, we have quotas. We only take blacks because you don't meet the BE code. The truth is, again, you're not the problem. It's not because you're white. There are problems. And perhaps even they're doing you a big favor. Means the universe say, try different. So for me, it's how you contemplate the situation matters. Things will happen for a reason. And universe will direct you where you're supposed to be. That's why you're here today, not because you want to be here. You are meant to be here at this particular time. Think where you're supposed to be, and you'll find the reason why you're supposed to be here. So for me, when situations happen, take responsibility and make something out of it and learn from it always. So never blame someone else. Where did they call you names? Where did they say what? Because imagine, if this person call you names, you ask yourself, but why is he calling me special names, not other person? What makes me special? And that means either you bring fear in people, and that's why they call you those names. So don't go become a victim. So you always have a choice. And I always choose being positive and become victorious. I think for me, that's the most important thing. So you have that choice in you. So sometimes, if you are in our hearts, we are all negative, we attract a lot of negative things in our lives. So you always have to keep your thoughts positive. Because I walk in the bush alone, where there are a lot of wild animals. And I remember, I never thought about hyenas attacking me or lion or whatever. Because I knew that if I thought about it, they're going to attack me. So I just think about something positive and walk, and nothing happens. That's why I could walk from Kenya to here with no problem. So you have a choice.
All right, good. Any questions? Comments? Just raise your hand that we can see. Don't be scared. Ask your questions. I've just asked your PA, those who want the book, can give me what is it, 200 Rand, and we will get the books here for you at Nicolene's office. So for those who are really keen to get the book, come to me afterwards, and then we can sort out how you get the book. And yeah, I got a nice book from Dr. Taban as well with his signature. So, who has got questions?
Dr. Taban, I don't have really a question. I just want to make a remark about what type of character Dr. Taban is. Me and my friend here, I'm attached at a school, and we were arranging a camp for senior students. And my friend contacted his office, and the kind lady here responded and said, Dr. Taban is overseas, but when he comes back, because what we wanted was maybe a video that exists of your life story. And he came back the Thursday, and the camp started the Friday. And he contacted us, and he said, well, okay, he'll make a video recording just for us. So on the video, we could see he's very tired. But it was a brilliant video just for our school of 20 minutes that we played at the camp, and it really had such an impact. And I want to thank you, Dr. Taban, for just your heart to contribute to changing the thinking mode of high school kids. And he really stressed the fact that you get opportunities, but what you make of that opportunities depends on you. And it's about hard work. It's not about handouts that people give to you. And I just want to commend you this afternoon in this audience to say thank you for your heart for people, even young people that you will probably never see, but just know you made a difference, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Taban. I have a bit of a personal question, if I can ask. I've read your book, actually, over the holiday. But my question is, if I'm not mistaken, I think you've got 2 kids. With your personal background in terms of how you grew up, how are you actually furthering your, how can I say, your life story in terms of your kids? What is your approach to them, having come from nothing and now being in the position that you are? You mentioned yourself a fancy car, if I can ask that.
Okay, I've been busy lately, so I actually got 4 kids. Look, you understand my mindset. My mindset is clear that, I told you that the child born in Soweto, Japan, Germany, and everything would actually equal their born as a blank slate. It's all about how much you invest in the children. And also, I also went further. I remember said that sometimes we make mistakes. We think children are like cats. You know when you have a cat in the house, you always want to massage the cat, hold the cat dearly. And that's where we're failing as a parents. Because when we produce children, that's what somebody once said, we don't inherit the earth. But what we do, we actually treasure it to hand over to the next generations. Now assume you're handing a child this beautiful place called earth, because there are delusions from a lot of people say, no, there's heaven. But I want to remind you, God has just given you earth. Now, if you're pathetic here, what makes you think you'll be good in heaven? Nothing. So I want to make sure that my children will become a useful citizen. And perhaps they don't need to go through what I've gone through to succeed in life. So I've always tried to teach them to become very good. My daughter, my firstborn, which is probably, she's 13 years old. And I always teach them that, don't judge me, that before you pray, if you're going to go and study, you go to write a test, don't pray because you're wasting time. Study hard. When you get 90%, then kneel down to God and say, thank you, I made it. The reason that because I wanted her to understand that there's nothing more God will give to you because He already given it to you. And you will be very happy when you use it properly. But if you haven't used it, then you can't pray for more. Because what is going to give it to you? It's the same thing. I can't pray for God because the patient I see is too sick. No, I'm going to run to the library and read if I don't know the answer. And when I come back, when I heal out, then I say, yes, God. That's for me, my principle in life. So my children's is more or less the same. So one day, my 13-year-old went and actually she had argument with some group of born again. And then she told them that, no, God is not going to help you. If you don't study hard, you're going to fail. And they tell her, oh, you're worshiping devil, you know. And out of blue, she actually went into depression. And whenever she walked, and those kids are there, then she thinks the kids are talking about her. And because one day, so I was going to welcome, I'm an ambassador for Rally to Read. So while we're going, then I thought, okay, I told my daughter, say, you know, let's drive, have a look at how many BMWs we see. So while we're driving, she started counting BMWs. And when we arrived on the toll gate after Soweto, then I asked, how many cars did you count? He said, about 300 BMWs. Then I said, okay, how did you manage to see all of them? He said, you know, Daddy, maybe the people here are rich. That's why there are a lot of BMW. Then I said, no. It's just because you implanted that idea in your mind. And that's why your brain automatically starts picking up all the BMWs. So what I did, and then from there, she understood. And I say, whatever you hear from the school is not about you. They're not talking about you. It's about you because your brain already telling you that they are talking about you. They're not talking about you. Focus on yourself, ignore them, and move on. So I've taught always my kids to kind of respect, work hard. So my 13-year-old, she runs twice a day because she got too much energy. And when she started, so she got run in between, and she reached to the point where sometimes she wake up at 10 o'clock because we stay in state. She said, Daddy, I'm writing an exam today. I can't sleep. So she take her boots and go run in the state. Even 2 kilometers, then she could sleep. And her marks jumped from 78 to about 88% average. So all the other kids are following the same. So the end of the day, it's all about children need to learn that for every small cup of tea that they're going to drink, someone have to pay for it. And they have to also understand that to be where they are, they're privileged. They're better than they're black children in any first world. So they have to compete with the best also to make sure that they do very well. But also they need to respect the earth. They must respect other human beings. And that's what, for me, we have to train our children and then to understand and also focus on their abilities, saying, this is what I can do. And always you have to respect the environment. And for me, I would not want my children to be spoiled. But for everything that they do some work. So now my shoes are all polished because my daughter is want to go to tour in Eastern Europe. So she makes sure my car is washed. My shoes are polished throughout. My socks are washed every day. Then she earns some money until she can be able to go to overseas. Thank you.
Good. Guys at the back? No? You see the challenge? All right, one more. If not, then I think we want to thank you very much. Those who are very keen to get the book, come to me. We will make a plan how to get it here. But you must pay me the 200 rand, don't forget. And then, Miss, can you come forward, please? And Dr. Taban, a small token of appreciation.
And thank you guys for coming in number. I was very nervous, but thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I feel at home. Thank you.
Good. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Go well. And I'm sure we will meet again. People, thanks for coming. We appreciate it.